I talk a lot on this podcast about how important it is to be playful in your work, how important it is to fully commit. But playful, not like, faffing around at work on the clock, but playful as a way to discover creative ways to solve problems, to be more productive as a team, to keep a team engaged. And to fully commit, not like put a ring on it, but to like, look, if we're going to do this, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to put absolutely everything I've got into this, and then we'll just see what happens. Now, in my experience, those two things combined, some pretty incredible things start to happen. But my outcomes from that combination, things like, I don't know, writing songs for the tour that I did around the book, or making the news show, which played at the Melbourne Comedy Festival twice, my outcomes to what happens when you do those two things together, they pale in comparison when you look at the outcome that occurs when you mix an incredible ability to communicate with your body through dance in an expressive, emotive, and freaking hilarious way. Smac is an LA-based dancer. She grew up in Southeast Queensland, in Rio de Janeiro, in Brisbane. Now, you may not recognise her name, but if I told you that she's also known as Hydraulic Press Girl, you probably have an idea of who I'm talking about. If not, I'll put a link in the show notes. You can click there right now, and then you'll go, oh, yeah, I'll see that person. I just think she's fantastic. She's such an inspiration. You can hear it in her voice. Her journey's extraordinary. And I just love how much she loves to do it. It's so freaking cool. And I can't wait for you to hear this.
Thanks for coming, Smac. It is odd calling you that. I'm not going to lie, because I grew up in Brisbane in the 80s.
Yeah. I didn't know it was a drug until I went to America, and everyone's like, oh my God, you must do drugs. I'm like, what's a drug? Just my name. But yeah, it's a strange name. I get, people are very hesitant. Some people like absolutely refuse to say it. And I'm like, well, I gave myself that nickname when I was 8. So
wow,
it kind of stuck around.
No, it's good. But yes, there's a TISM song about it.
Really?
Yeah. But it was about.
There's a lot of songs. Smack That. There's all sorts of things. I got a whole album.
You are too. You do.
Yeah.
I've been aware of your work for a while. And then you put up a video of when you did the routine from The Mask.
Oh.
And I just saw that, and I was, you were 15 or 16 or something like that. Like just fucking fearlessly at that age. I saw that and I'm like, that is teacher after teacher after teacher going, yes, do it. It blows my mind that you had the people around you to go, you should keep doing, this is the thing you should do. Do that.
Yeah.
And it's just for me, it was just such a testament to everyone that drove you there and took you there and said, no, that thing, do more of that thing. And it was just fucking extraordinary. Do you remember a moment on stage where it didn't feel, where you looked forward to being on stage?
Maybe at the very beginning, but no, I was super lucky to have that kind of relaxed environment. Yeah. And I mean, I guess I wasn't ever really out of control, so people weren't telling me no. Maybe I just was doing it enough where they're like, that's funny, that's cute, keep going. So I was just always encouraged. I've never had guidance or pressure to do anything other than what I've wanted to do, I guess. So I was just luckily enough in that environment. So I never felt uncomfortable on stage. I never felt forced. It was almost the opposite, where I was like, is anyone here going to say no to me?
You're from Brisbane?
Mm-hmm. I'm from Logan.
Yeah.
Shayla Park. I didn't know you were from Brisbane.
That's right, mate.
Where?
All over. But Shayla Park, I have mates that grew up there. It's a very different part of the city now.
I feel like such a tourist when I go back. I really don't know my bearings.
I need a map. You went to school in the town?
I moved around a lot, but because my brother kept getting expelled. But I did Logan primary schools, a couple, and then I did Springwood High School, and then I went to this really awesome high school called Queensland Academy for Creative Industries, but I was part of the cohort. So it opened up the year I went, and there was only 30 kids in this.
Where was it?
In Kelvin Grove.
Oh, it's the old Kelvin Grove High.
No, next door to it.
Yeah, because I remember exactly. That's fucking awesome. Did you have to audition?
I did. And you know what? Because I was a dancer, mostly. I've always been really into like physical comedy and stuff, but dancing was my main training as a kid. And then when this school came about, no one knew what it was. It didn't exist yet. A friend of mine was like, I'm going to audition. I'm like, okay. So I went in. So my mum was always late to everything. So as a kid, I was late to every dance competition, every dance class, every school, everything. It was really frustrating. So I'm never late now. I was a little bit late last night, actually, to the show. Anyway, that's not the point. But
you were quite early this morning.
Yes. No, I'm pretty prompt. And I think I got that because I'm trying to balance out my childhood. But anyway, so I was late to this audition and I missed the whole thing.
Fuck.
So I turn up. It's at QUT, Cowan Grove, and I don't know where I'm going. My mum's waiting in the car. I'm walking down the hallways and I'm like, I don't know where I'm
What are you,
meant to.
12?
No, or 15. 15?
Oh, right. So you're going in for the grade 11, grade 12.
Yeah, 10, 11, 12.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. So your mum's waiting in the car
Yeah.
for this like fuck off audition. She's not walking you in.
No. She was very supportive, but didn't need to be there. I just did everything on my own kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
So I went in, found this lady. I was like, is there an audition? I'm doing a dance or something. And she's like, sorry, doll, that's done. And I'm like, oh, well, I had it prepared. And she's like, okay, well, yeah, what are you going to do? And I'm like, oh,
Was that the person you were supposed to see?
I think it was ended up being like the vice principal or someone. It was someone or in admin, someone important enough, but it wasn't the person that was like, I don't even know who I was meant to be auditioning in front of. But I was like, oh, I have a dance. And she was like, oh, well, do you have a song? And I'm like, like singing? And she's like, yeah. Or do you have an instrument? I'm like, no, I just have a dance. And she's like, all right, show me. So I did some contemporary dance on the carpet. That's all I remember. And then you had to do a test, which, you know what? Not my forte, but somehow I passed. And then I get in, go to school, first day. And I'm like, okay, we have to like find the dance room or something. I'm walking around. Doesn't exist, asking people, and they're like, there's no dance studio here. So I'm like, wait, what kind of school is this? And then I found out dance does not exist there. So you only have 4 subjects to major in: theater arts, visual arts, music, or film. And I'm like, okay, guess I'll just do art or like theater or something. So yeah, dance did not exist at all there. It's there now because I went back to actually teach last year, which was fun. But anyways, yeah, so I did audition to get in.
How did you?
The wrong thing.
How? Because G, who is our elder, she started when she was 4. Mm-hmm. How did you come to dancing?
Yeah, I started when I was 5 in tap class. I think it's because I was incredibly shy as a kid. So like someone suggested going to dance. So my mum dropped me off at a dance studio. I think she paid for like 6 weeks in advance. So I actually remember, because I was 5, it was like, I have the faint memory of it, crying in the corner, just like not participating. But then by week 6, there was a small performance at the Hyperdome in Logan.
Which was at the time the largest shopping centre in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yes, very proud of it.
The Logan Dome.
It's beautiful now. I went there recently. Oh my God, people wear shoes now. But it was one of those things where there's video of this. So I'd never participated in class, but we're all toddlers and we all get up on stage, and then we did 2 performances, like one at the morning, one in the afternoon. In the morning, the video, I'm just standing at the back, but I participated, like I knew the dance. And then in the second video, you see the dance teacher push me to the front and I'm like leading the group. And then I guess from there, I just stayed at the dance school because I got the hang of it. But that dance studio did have drama classes as well. So after you do a little bit of dancing, it was not a strict dance studio at all. It was very playful, very relaxed.
Yeah.
So we would like muck around in the dance studio and then we'd all go to the drama class and play games. And I think I just naturally got a knack for like physical comedy and like using my body, because that's what I had training in. So then, yeah, drama classes definitely was where character came out. And I was so encouraged to play around on stage in the dance routines. So we would do like dance competitions, and then I would walk in the middle of the routine. I would have like a comedy solo. Like I would be playing the characters on stage, and my teachers just let me.
Dance is one of those things people may not look at as a, if people think, oh, weekend sport, they think footy.
Hobby.
Yeah. They think footy, they think soccer, they think netball, they think whatever. For people who might not kind of have an idea about what dance can do for a kid, what would you say, or whether it be dance or whether it be soccer or cricket or whatever, there's the trope of the dance teacher lady with the cane banging it on the floor of the studio, or the soccer coach going, yeah, fucking. I understand why people might have done that for a while.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it turns out in the end like a 25-year-old professional who will have the mindset to do something unorthodox in a moment of pressure.
And actually love every moment of it.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like it is, whenever I talk to my friends who are professional dancers, performers, it's more common that you do have the strict environment. It really is. But I was super lucky where I don't know how that happened, where my interest still stayed enough. And but I honestly think that I've never once not enjoyed any part of what I do, ever. I've never had to adapt to even an adult mentality since I was about 8. It's been like this for me. So like every day is the same. I've enjoyed every single part of it. I've felt very independent with it. I've always been able to just do what I want. And somehow it's worked out. But I think that the actual passion for that is what kept me going. And if someone was telling me no, I would be like, no, I'm not interested. I probably would have given up 100%.
How does your early experience affect the way that you teach when you do teach?
Oh, yeah. I think I love teaching and trying to encourage kids to merge different things together. I've never just been a one-trick pony. I think what is more exciting to me, and that's who I was inspired by as well, which we can talk about later, is I probably would get bored if I was just doing one thing. So I'm like, merge everything. It doesn't have to be like, oh, dance merged with comedy, because that can go hand in hand. But what about fashion? What about music? What about singing? What about actual painting, visual arts? What about maths? I don't know. If you can like just kind of bring all your hobbies together, you can probably create something stronger and unique and individual and you know, part of your personality. So whenever I teach, I try to encourage that, because a lot of young dancers only know dance and sometimes only one style and only one way. And I'm like, branch out, create something for yourself, because at some point you won't have a leader. So you have to be able to do it yourself. Like actually learn to manage yourself and not rely on someone telling you what to do.
There's very few art forms that have seen just this hockey stick of iteration than dance, because of the visual nature of communication through YouTube. Like there'd be a kid in Logan who's never seen the way that an African kid can do that thing with their neck while their feet are doing something different.
Yeah.
You know, in the mid-2000s, you never saw it. And then now you're looking at 6 kids on red dirt doing this thing, and they're like, I think I want to do that. And then now there's the Brisbane version of that thing.
Yeah.
And then some kid in Portugal goes, hey, I just seen this kid in Brisbane do this thing. I'm going to do this thing. And there's this complete astounding kind of mixture of styles that has never happened in any art form, I don't think.
That blows my mind. I kind of joke about this, but it's kind of real. I'm like, the first time I saw hip hop dancing, I was probably 20. Like actual authentic hip hop choreography that was done well. And I'm like, kids these days have so much accessibility. They can just like find anything and see any version of it, from like pro-am, amateur, beginner to absolute professional. Like they can actually find anything and see it. And if they like it, they can find more and they can learn it just by themselves. So I think I love encouraging people and young kids to use the resources like that. And I think, you know, we are as society encouraging that. But then sometimes I feel like people also are shunning that, because it's like the unknown of like, is that going to affect you in the long run, of like how much screen time you have, like even just that. I'm like, I don't know. The internet's been amazing for me. It can be life-changing overnight. So like safely run with it. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, I didn't know anything. I've only ever had one dance teacher in my life. It was the same lady. We did the same choreography every year. So we never actually, it was kind of from like Michael Jackson music videos. So it was good choreography. But yeah, I feel like I have no idea where I could have been if I actually just had the insight and like resources of just knowledge.
Yeah, the basis that sounds like the basis that you were given of being confident in your ability to learn a choreography, to learn some moves, but also that's the base, and you can go and play on top of that.
Yeah.
And here's the space where that's going to work. Mm-hmm. That set you up to then explore everything.
Yeah. You know what really set me up, and I always give him a shout out, is Frank Woodley. That was my absolute biggest inspiration.
Frank Woodley.
Mm-hmm. So when I was about 8, I saw Leno Woodley, the the TV series, obviously my favorite TV show. And that was what made me start experimenting with, because he does stunts, he does physical humor, obviously, comedy, writing, directing, art, music. He does everything. I love Colin Lane as well, but frankly, I thought he was so flexible. So I started mimicking him just in the lounge room. And that's what made me start doing stunts, my own like acrobatic tricks, dance tricks, falling over for a laugh, clowning. I literally learned from just watching him. I really remember at 8 years old, because it was a Halloween talent show, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do a thing like Frank Woodley. So I kind of just mimicked him and did like a little performance and won the talent show. And I was like, okay, I'll keep going. But because of my dance training, obviously I was able to execute it, and in my own way, because I was like already trained and flexible, and I knew musicality and choreography. So I was able to add to it. So it was always layering already. But that was my resource. It's just Lionel Woodley.
So the show that you did last night, our news show, when we did the pilot, your role was played by Colin Lane.
I know you'd messaged that to me, and my heart skipped a beat. I was like, it's crazy.
He'd be thrilled to meet you. So was the moment that you got to this high school in Queensland, because I know what it's like. I didn't do very well in my high school, and I was a roadie for like a year. I got 2 hernias and hearing damage, and then I went to TAFE and studied contemporary music, and I'm sitting in this class like, oh, you're my people.
Oh, right.
Oh, this is nice. Did you get that feeling when you're at that high school?
No. Hard no.
That's fine.
I think there was maybe one other person that did dance there, but she was more ballet, and I couldn't relate. I never did ballet. We only did jazz and tap. So we were dancing to disco music or 80s music. I was like, can't relate to ballerinas. So I was the only dancer there, and it was a new school, very small amount of people, mostly musicians, which I wasn't. So I would just be in the theater room by myself every lunchtime. We also had MacBooks, and it was like the first time I had a computer. And so photo booth was an iMovie I was blown away with. So that's because I've always loved editing, which is what helps my day-to-day career now. So I was making short films. I have all of them still, but I would just make music videos. It was just lip syncing and dancing, choreographing and editing. And I would do that all day long during class, outside of class, during lunchtime. And I loved it so much. Occasionally I would have friends that would let me force them into it as well. So then I was like getting my director hat on, and then I would make that somehow work into my assignments. So then for my art assignment, I would be like, I'm just going to make a little music video, but make it a little bit artsy so I can pass. Well, then I actually started doing local musical theater, and I really did find a great group of people there. So that was outside of school. School I was never interested in, honestly. I was super bored, but if I had iMovie and I could edit, I was having a blast, but it was just by myself.
So what I hear from you talking about the iMovie and talking about that on your MacBook Pro, that's just sets and reps. It's just repetition. Yep. Okay, because talent is one thing. It truly is. Yet the true, once you've got to get it to that complete subconscious muscle memory, like doing it without even considering it, and then operating layers and layers and layers above that without having to think about putting the clutch in when you're changing gears.
Yeah, exactly.
That only comes from reps, only comes from flight miles. And that same when you're getting to, musical theater and just doing it. At what point did you start to think about like after school? Because like how many professional dancer jobs are there in Australia? Not that many.
Cruise ships is all I knew. Cruise ship was the only dream that I ever heard of. And I was like, I don't really like the ocean. So I never considered it.
Competitive eating at sea?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
So I remember I did one audition for a cruise ship probably at like 17, and I got offered a contract, and I don't know, no one was telling me what to do. I had no mentor. For some reason I was like, nah. I literally turned down the best dance opportunity in Brisbane. And I don't know what made me turn it down, but I was just kind of like not interested in it.
Have you ever been on a cruise ship?
No, I'm not interested.
No. See that laundry cupboard there?
Yeah.
Like it'd be that's your cabin, but there's no window.
Yeah.
And
why would I want that?
In your free time, you get to go up on deck with the other people that will. Yeah, no.
Yeah, for some reason I had seen or heard enough from someone where I was like, that doesn't sound satisfying to me. At that point, I'm not kidding. Since like 8 years old, I've been exactly how I am now. Where every day I'm doing multiple different things. I'm performing, I'm editing, I'm filming, I'm choreographing, I'm directing, I'm writing. So there's so many things that a cruise ship felt very limiting.
Yeah.
So I was like, dancing every night? No, thank you. Also, I'll always take the easiest route. So I'm like, actually dancing every night is a lot of work.
So at what point, because you've been in America for a long time, at what point did overseas start to become an option?
Okay, so I never dreamt about it at all. I was really lucky. My first professional audition, so I lived in Brisbane, and there's like one agent up there at the time, and I hadn't signed with them yet, but they were like, oh, there's an audition that you can do in Sydney for a theatre show where they need dancers who can do acrobatics. And I was kind of self-taught circus, so I had quite a lot of acrobatics up my sleeve. So they didn't represent me, but they gave me the information. I flew myself down. I think I was 17, maybe almost 18. But I was in my first year at uni, and at uni I was doing art because I knew that was the easiest. I'm always going to take the easiest way. I was like, I could do full-time dance, but that's dancing every day. Or I could do art and sit around and make an art thing the hour before it's due and pass, which I did. So I was like, I'll just do art. But anyway, so I did this audition. I flew myself down to Sydney, and I thought it was for King Kong, the musical. I just knew they needed dancers who could do acrobatics.
I'm an ape on an... I love that.
Yeah, but I knew I didn't have to sing. That's why I was like, I'll go, because I always had a fear of singing. Like, I loved it, but I don't know. Movement was always my thing. So I went, and at the audition, they then tell us it's for How to Train Your Dragon DreamWorks.
Huh.
So there was a massive arena show that toured.
Oh, yeah.
And I got the lead role.
Wow.
And they, my callback was 6 months later because they auditioned around the world for this role. And some reason I got it. So I was like, okay, my life just changed. Now I'm going to America. Well, I thought it was America straight away, but it was for, do you know, so you know, but the company Walking with Dinosaurs who create that. So they built the dragons. So they were life-size dragons, and we were the actors in it. There was no dance. It was like weapons, stunt choreography, wires flying around on dragons.
Is it one of those ones where there's a voice actor through the PA, or were you on a mic?
No, it was me.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it was stage acting.
So
and
cool.
Fighting dragons, flipping.
Sick.
It's doing nunchucks. It was crazy.
Obviously there's a shit ton of rehearsal for that.
Yeah, we did 3 months to create the show because they were still building the dragons. It's like it was labeled the most ambitious theater show at the time, like worldwide. And it was with DreamWorks. So the writers of the movie were there. Jeffrey Katzenberg was there to watch the rehearsals. It was crazy.
Where were you rehearsing?
Fox Studios in Sydney.
Oh, wow.
For 3 months. It's an arena size show, so they needed so much space. We did that for 3 months, opened in Melbourne, did Sydney, did Brisbane, New Zealand, and then we went to America.
Wow.
And because it's DreamWorks, they got me a visa in 5 minutes.
Fuck yeah.
Because they have power. So I didn't even know about visas. And I mean, if anyone is thinking about moving to America, it's difficult if you're trying to be an artist.
It took you years and thousands.
It's difficult and expensive, and there's so much involved, and feels a bit scammy.
They won't, as you'll no doubt see on various cable news channels, they won't take everyone.
Yep.
But they do take the best. And
sometimes, yes.
Well, that's how you got in, mate. That's how you got in.
Well, I was very lucky that I got in through DreamWorks initially. So then we did North America, we did Canada, and then...
So you're on the road for like, what,
2
months?
years.
Fuck. Mm-hmm. What is that like?
And I was 18 when I started, and I was, I think, the youngest in the cast. And the cast was international. There was only 3 Australians in it. They had the most amazing circus performers from France, from England, actors from LA.
So I'm guessing you've got people who've done Cirque and things like this.
No, because we were all a bit of like oddball, but could have been, but it wasn't like, we were all had our own personality, I think. So we weren't like strict Cirque, although the people were amazing. But anyway.
Yeah, cool.
There was like 200 people traveling with us. It was insane.
Are you like staying, is it like we've got a deal with the Marriott and you're staying?
Yeah. Touring was amazing.
Yeah.
Considering if we're going to compare tours as a dancer in in America, which is like backup dancing for artists, you know, obviously Taylor Swift is in her own league and she's amazing, but it's pretty...
There's 6 of those jobs in the world.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same people and it's kind of, they get better, but for the most part, backup dancing on tour is really hard work and not always the best perks. You know, it's not something I ever aspired to do, But touring as one of the lead actors in a DreamWorks production was the bee's knees. And I fell into this, and I was like, in that moment of touring, I knew that that was probably the best touring experience I could ever get. So I was like, done with that, cool. Right. But we actually ended the show because DreamWorks suddenly sold it to China, the entire production. So we all kind of got fired. But we were in California at the time, and an agent saw the performance and reached out, and they were like, we know you're Australian, if you're ever wanting to move here, we can sponsor you for the visa. So the next day I caught the train to their office, knocked on the door, and I was like...
You're the one person on the train in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
There's a train in Los Angeles.
I somehow survived. Yeah. Came out alive. But I knocked on the door, and they were like, who are you? And I was like, hi, someone saw me perform last night. This was the show I'm in, and you said you would be a sponsor. And they were like, okay. And then they signed it, and so I moved. It was an overnight decision, honestly, because I had a flight to go home that week.
Wow.
And I was like, I'll just stay in LA.
19, 20 years old.
I was 20, yeah.
Holy shit.
And I'd saved every penny because I'm pretty frugal like that, so I was fine. I had no commitments. My family we're not close or affectionate, so I never had someone being like, oh, I wish you were home. So I never had that. I didn't have a home base, it felt like. So I was like, I'll just stay in LA.
Just in case your mum hears this, or your parents or family, it's like, it's not that they don't love you.
No,
or there's no
that.
love between you. But I know this feeling because I lived overseas for a long time too.
Yeah.
And some families are like, oh, man, I miss you, man.
Yeah, you feel the guilt. I kind of didn't feel the guilt.
I remember calling my parents going, like, what do you think we worked for? Like, of course we go. Enjoy. Dude, this is what we want to go. Do it.
I think, and that's the same as I was a kid. I never felt limited. I never felt the pressure. I was never guilt tripped into anything. I never felt like, it was unusually easy for me to just move to America overnight. But I'd also been on the road for 2 years. And those years, it's like when you're growing up, like 18 to 20, I was discovering who I really was as an adult. And like also with people that I've never done drugs or anything, and I've never been drunk. And in those years, that would have been the time where I probably could have, and everyone else was. And I was like, I'm just going to get a hot chocolate from the cafe instead. So I was really already so set on who I was, and I felt so independent. And I'm just doing my little iMovie, doing some YouTube videos. I've always been content just doing my own thing. So thankfully, the tour aspect of it didn't take over, and I didn't have any weird experiences like that.
Yeah, because the monotony of, and I'm guessing, because it's such a big production, you'd be doing a couple of days at least in every spot. So you're not bags down 6 hours after you get off stage and then at a bus.
It's go, go, go. And I was doing media because the two lead roles was constant media every day. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It was really fun. I learned a lot. I had so much fun with it. But I'm just really lucky that I didn't, I just was so confident in who I was as a person that I didn't need to, I never felt peer pressured to do anything other than what I love and am. So when the tour ended unexpectedly, I was fine.
Right.
Because it wasn't the same for everyone. Some people really struggled to then like, what do you do next? You know, like savings were gone. So things like that. But that's why it was really easy for me to just move to LA. Found a little apartment on Craigslist. I knew what Craigslist was at that point.
You can find all kinds of things on Craigslist. So I'm glad you found something nice.
I found my first few jobs on there, like short film stuff.
You can also find very, very strange employment.
Yeah.
That is not what you think it is on Craigslist.
No. Luckily, I was smart enough to not do anything like that. I was more like, I was like fascinated by it. I like learnt by just researching. So that's the other thing is when you move to LA, I think a lot of people have mentors or at least one other person they know. I didn't know anyone. I knew one person, we weren't close.
Yeah.
And they weren't in mentor positions. So again, I've always been so self-efficient and independent. So I'm like, well, I've got a laptop and I just Googled stuff. I'm like, how do you get an audition?
Wow.
How do you do anything? So when I found Craigslist, I started looking at talent auditions because my agent was only for dance. And I was like, well, I'm more than dance. And I already knew at that point, even having never done much in Australia. So I started Googling for TV auditions, short films, and I booked my first audition as a lead in a short film. And then it went to the Hollywood Film Festival. And I mean, it's like a student film, like university student, but a huge experience still. Like it was a week long on set, you know, it was professional.
At what point did you start to figure out that this kind of trajectory isn't the thing that is everybody's experience? At what point did you start to go, there's something that I'm doing that is different from other people?
I think I knew immediately.
Yeah.
And this is what I really took away from the high school I went to. I knew how to be self-efficient and how to manage myself. So every job I did, it's, you know, everyone talks on set. You just hear things, especially within the dance community. It just felt like a lot of people waiting around. And I'm like, why? So I don't know what it was, but I've always had that encouragement that my ideas are okay. And my plan is okay, because since I was a kid, no one was really like, oh, that might not work. And so far, I had a good track record for the things I wanted to do would happen. And I was also never really disappointed in the things that didn't happen, because I'm like, yeah, it's fine. That's my Australian personality, where it's like, no worries. I think that that's a very Australian thing.
Do you learn from the things that don't work?
Yeah, I mean, naturally, there's auditions I didn't get, but I never took it to heart. I think I just really learned early on that rejection is kind of, I don't need to worry about it. It's going to happen every day, but also won't happen every day for other things. So it never affected me to a point where I couldn't keep going.
That's ever. Amazing, because the job, surfing has the wrong name. They should call it paddling, getting smashed in the face, and a lot of waiting around.
Absolutely.
Because that is surfing.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You do 8 seconds on a wave, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
It's like 3 seconds.
And maybe someone might see it.
Who cares if they see it or not? Do you enjoy it? Yeah. That's it. The rest is paddling, getting smashed in the face, waiting your turn, waiting. Acting or dancing or whatever is getting told, no, we've found someone better most of your life. And then every now and again getting, hey, we want you. And if you expect that the hey, we want you is the thing that's going to make you feel better, you are not going to get it doing that job.
Yeah.
It's a real problem. Most of it is nah. So you just have to understand, you have to be cool with who you are.
Yeah.
And you have to be cool. There's Charlie always says, Charlie Clausen says, it's a fast yes or a slow no.
Yeah. And it's so true. And I experienced that all the time today, yesterday, all the time. But I don't know what it was in my young brain that was like, that's okay. Who cares? And I just keep going. I don't know where that came from, but I knew that that was important to keep. So I think I actively worked to keep that mentality, because every job I did, I'd find people who weren't like that. And I was like, well, that's why you're stressed. That's why you're panicking. That's why you're thinking, you're giving yourself a deadline and you're like, after 3 months, I've got to move home. I was like, I don't want to feel like that. I don't like feeling stressed. I don't like feeling like that it's not going to work out, like doubt. I'm like, that's not fun. You know, obviously you feel it at points, but I'm like, that's kind of really not fun to feel like that.
Tell me about what role, because it sounds like no matter what, even when you're on the road, even when you're in a hotel room somewhere, you're jumping on a dragon for the 300th time, you are always creating something. Tell me about that. What role does creating and constantly creating play in keeping you calm and being okay with getting told no?
That's the lead role in my life. That is what keeps me going every day. When I was in Brisbane still, like from 16, when I was at high school, 16 to 18, before I got this job that was, you know, America, I was loving comedy. I tried stand up a little bit, but I forced my friend into a comedic duo. We did a little slapstick thing. I did Class Clowns. We won in Brisbane and came down to MICF when I was like 16. So I was trying to be in that. I was watching comedy every weekend. My mum took me to comedy shows every weekend as a kid. So that was my main thing. And then at the high school I was at, my theater teacher was so encouraging, because the final assessment in school was you had to, in theater, basically choose a department, whether it be the actor, the director, the writer, the designer, and you had to present it, like pitch that department for a production. And I was like, well, I don't know which one to choose because I like so many of these roles. And he's like, just do them all then. So I created an entire production for my assessment instead of just one department. I put it on at school, and then I pitched it to a comedy festival, and we got picked up. And then in my last year of high school, I was performing in comedy festivals with my own show. at the Brisbane Powerhouse.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think I can do this.
Yeah, right.
So that, I think, honestly, just creating my own thing was what I was already used to, because in Brisbane back then, there is less opportunity. So I didn't even know that you're supposed to wait for opportunity. I don't think I knew that. I was taught you create it. And I just ran with that. So when I went to LA, and people are creating, obviously, I'm generalizing, but for the most part, people are waiting. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
But then I've been there for 11 years. I have been incredibly fortunate. And I think I found my strengths and weaknesses and ran with what I could. But I really fell into the trap. It's not a trap. It's basically also the dream of doing other people's work. So I'm auditioning in roles I have no creative say in. And then on set where can't even, kind of like the show last night when I was explaining, when you're on set, you feel like as the only talent in a job, whether you're the only one on screen, you think you are kind of important, yet you can't even you can't communicate with anyone. You're stuck in a room. People are telling you how to dress, how to act, how to look, how to stand. You don't even get say you don't get any control at all. I fell into that for about 8 years, but I was really fortunate because that is a career where I was very consistently working, mostly in TV commercials, which I love because it's kind of, it's pretty easy. Like as a performance point of view, as someone who's trained in dance, standing on set to do a Google commercial is pretty easy physically. Getting there is the hard part.
Yeah.
The actual work is just standing and being patient.
Yeah.
And just cooperating.
Yeah. Hurry up and wait.
Yeah. So that's kind of easy.
Yeah. And America has a very different pay scale for performers than Australia, in that the money that you get paid for commercials, and I know this from the voiceover side of things, you get residuals. If they roll that over, they'll pay you. That thing will pay every time it plays in, now we're selling this in Milwaukee. Here's a check. Thank you. Mailbox money. That does not happen here. And I don't know how long it's going to happen in the States because it's tough to compete. But that career that, you've obviously worked very hard to maintain that. You don't accidentally keep those jobs. You're probably dancing all the time. You're either taking or doing classes every week. You're like making sure that you got to keep your splits over the summer, kids. That's keep your splits over the summer. That's always got to do that. But what that does, it gives you the freedom to choose to create when you're offset. Yeah. Which is, I'm guessing, how one ends up with an installation at the National Gallery of Victoria.
Well, see, that's the thing. So I really yes, behind the scenes work is nonstop, but I've always loved every part of that. So obviously the cliche didn't feel like work because I love every part of it. Yeah. But even to the point where I felt like I did everything on my own and I was super okay with it. So, the standard in this industry is, you got to have headshots. You got to have a resume. You got to have a website. And a lot of people can't do that by themselves. And I was like, why? I'm just going to do it. So then I became a photographer and I was doing my headshots. I loved editing since I was younger. I learned how to use Photoshop. I was then doing other people's headshots, getting some pocket money that way. I was editing people's show reels because I've always loved editing. And then I learned how to make a website. Like, it's stuff you can do. I'm doing the bare minimum. I'm not like, high level at it, but I never felt like I had to rely on anyone else because relying on other people was like time consuming, hard, possibly a lot of more rejection. So I'm like, let's just figure it out on my own, do what I can. But I was so lucky. The flow that I had seemed to work. And for years, I was just doing commercial after commercial after commercial. I've done about 70. And they're all different contracts. That's not saying they're all jackpots in any sense, but I felt very consistently working. And a lot of those had nothing to do with dance. So on the other end, I'm doing dance stuff, but I really noticed that auditioning for dance, just auditioning, not even the job, is so much work. Like, you have to stand in line for 10 hours in the sun. You don't possibly even get into the dance studio to dance because there's thousands of people for a job that's probably already cast. I was like, that's discouraging. I want to do it, but what else can I do as well that will keep me satisfied creatively and just so that I'm not relying on that. And that's why I always like to teach people not to just have one thing. I think just do as much as you can. But it was actually the pandemic that gave me some downtime, because this was full time, all 100%. I never had a holiday or day off. The pandemic forced everyone to have a day off, a few years off. And coincidentally, I started my own business with my partner because I won the green card lottery in the same time. So
Nice.
I felt greedy about it because I was
Why?
already there with a visa, and then I just won the green card lottery.
It's all right.
But it meant I could start business.
Yeah.
I've always loved business and stuff. So me and my partner created a production studio where we do set design as well. And we built out an entire studio with like multiple different permanent set designs, and then people rent by the hour. And so we built that in a month, and then the pandemic hit on our opening day, like opening night party. And we had no idea what was going to happen with that. And then the pandemic lasted so long, but because we were a private business by appointment, we were able to continue operating. And somehow it worked out. People had time to be creative. And so the business was successful for a small business. But because of that, it meant I then had my own production space 24/7. I had all the cameras and lighting set up. I had set designs. I had a key, and I had TikTok. So that was the same, all within that month. I started the business, had my own space, the pandemic hit, and I downloaded TikTok. And it just absolutely skyrocketed because it meant every day I was filming and uploading about 10 to 20 videos, because I immediately saw TikTok as being a very experimental place, very accepting of raw, unpolished work. And I thrive in something that's easy. So if I don't have to have it fully polished, that means I can upload immediately. I'm there. And I just took it and I just kept going. And yeah, I think honestly, it was the most fulfilling I've ever felt in my whole career, because it was full control again and full creative mode, just like as I was when I was a kid. So I kind of felt like I went back to my 17-year-old self and just, yeah, haven't stopped since.
There's certainly one thing that I see as a through line through all your work. And so I would ask you this. What is the importance of keeping a spirit of playfulness?
I mean, I don't even know how to describe the importance of it, because I can't imagine how I would be without it. It's a very youthful, playful thing that I have, and I've always known that that's important because it's only ever gotten me further. So I've never wanted to squash that. There's been times when I've been...
See what you did there? Nice.
Oh my God.
Always
very
on brand.
Impressed.
Always on brand.
There's been environments where I felt that being squashed. And so I just note, I'm like honestly, being on set for a TV commercial where I have no control, but what am I benefiting from? Maybe the paycheck, the resume. So I know that it's still beneficial, but the playfulness has been the drive the whole way.
How does playfulness get you through, I don't know, 2 jobs don't come in a row, rent's coming, car payments, whatever?
Well, it keeps the happiness there, honestly. I'm so content with it, and it's something that I can completely do by myself, or I can share that with my friends, and it amps it up even more. But it's just not having to rely on anyone or anything, but I can still feel fully satisfied with being 100% creative, and it feels like I'm progressing every time. I'm still experimenting, discovering. I don't know how to stop it.
Because, people might be watching and it's hard sometimes if you've never known that we have a choice to look at something. We can either accept it as it is, or we can take it personally and go, this is happening because it must hate me. This train being late, this rain, this traffic is because it doesn't like me. We take it personally. We have invented both stories, but a lot of people, it's hard to get that leap to understand that I've created how I feel about this. To go through life with this kind of outlook of playfulness on whatever challenge you're facing, that is somewhat of a superpower.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? The way you just worded it, not that it's fully around religion, but I did not grow up religious. I did not have a community. I had some dance friends, but I've always felt very alone, but never sad about it, which is really strange because usually you would be feeling lonely. I've never felt lonely, but I think maybe that's why in those down moments in career and stuff, I've never felt like I needed more. I was never taught to blame anyone or to give credit to anyone. It's like, it's all been all me. So I think when you're in a community, and I mean, I'm thinking of religion now, it's kind of something I was talking about with someone recently. Even when you're saying, oh, it's raining and it's God's plan, it's someone else's plan. Oh, it's because, the train's late, they must hate me. I feel like I've always put everything on myself, so I'm in full control. I guess maybe I'm a control freak. I don't know what that means.
No, keep going.
But I was never around other people enough or a community or felt like I could even credit anyone else. Like I'll give myself full credit for the things I think I deserve the credit for, but I also blame myself for everything. I think that's me like not wanting to rely on anyone else or anything else, but it's almost weird that it could have backfired that I didn't have a community in that sense.
Well, essentially, you're talking about taking responsibility. Blame's a tricky word. But you're talking about taking responsibility for when things don't go great.
Yeah.
All right. Rather than...
Or trying to justify it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a freedom in that? Is there a freedom in not crediting anybody else, but also taking responsibility for a situation?
I think there's a freedom, but I think it's a slippery slope because it could just bring you down into a spiral. You have to still have a bit of control so that you stay on track and don't get stuck in that mindset of like, if something doesn't go right, it's because of you. Because I'm like, oh, I didn't get that job because I wasn't good enough. Cool, I'm not good enough. And then I move on instead of being like, oh, why wasn't I good enough? I'm like, oh, it's because I didn't have brown hair. Okay. I think I just look at everything pretty logically and not emotionally, maybe, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how that happens. But it's obviously easier. If I know there's an easier way to look at something, I will.
It took me tens of thousands of dollars of therapy to get to that. Like way cheaper.
I'm like, oh, that's too much work to get upset about looking the wrong way. I'm just going to accept it. It's just accepting it for what it is. And I think I also look at this industry as quite a game where it's like, you really could be the best in the room, but they really like that brunette.
And that's it.
Yeah, you have no control. So I think once I realized that, which was really early on, I was like, oh, well, why dwell in it,
Yeah. I'm exploring this a little bit lately because I had someone on the show talk about growing up and they always saw exercise as the thing that people who wanted to be skinny did. And so they never engaged in it. But then she said, if only I'd been told exercise is a way to make everything way easier and your moods are way easier to handle and you sleep way better and things piss you off less and you find things way more enjoyable, I would have been mad into it way earlier. And now this person's a endurance runner. And I found the same thing in my late 20s. Exercise, I didn't want to do it. And suddenly, oh, wow, if I run, I feel way better. What role does moving your body, I mean, you move your body all the time. So what's the difference between when you haven't had a chance to move your body, maybe you're ill or maybe you're traveling or whatever, versus when you can?
I mean, that's really backtracking here when you're saying like, what's the importance of dance for children and like that kind of thing? Movement, 100%. It's pretty cool to learn that skillfully, but then also just experience that for health, mental health and everything. I think movement early on is so important. But when I don't move... Okay, well, I love not moving. I kind of prioritize downtime. So I sleep in as much as I can every day and I work from bed as much as I can. So I can go quite a long time without moving. But the hydraulic press videos is because I see choreography and everything. Like if something moves, naturally, mechanically, whatever, you can perform it. So I've always played that game since I was a kid. Like this wasn't a new idea. It was just a new way to execute it, a new platform. But I think maybe that helps. I don't feel like I'm never not moving.
What would you say it is to give a kid through dance or sport or whatever? What would you say it is to give them, I guess, fluency and literacy in their own body, the way their own body can move?
It's just so important to encourage kids to also take control of their own movement, because so many sports and dance and everything, you're only going to do what you're told. I mean, everyone has a body. So like if you can learn how to, it's like taking your own responsibility for it. So you get the basis. Like, how can you add to that? It's really like, how can you encourage kids to, I mean, it's all about creativity. This can be even just mentally, like art, writing, anything. It's like, how can you take what you learn, but then actually make it your own and learn that to create the next part of it. So we're not just standing there doing clicks. Like, how can you, I don't know how to explain it.
No,
I'm much better with my body than my words.
No, that's fine. So let's say you're guesting, you're teaching a dance class. Let's say there's the 8-year-old.
Okay.
All right. And he or she's in the corner, like, don't want to do this. What do you say to that kid about finding the joyfulness or the playfulness in the moment?
For me, musicality is my favorite part about dance. I mean, anyone can move, but the musicality is what makes it impressive to me and unique and a different experience. So I think if anything, I don't care how they're moving, I would be teaching them how to create rhythm and respond to rhythm. Because learning a dance move can be really boring, honestly. I don't like being in class, but moving to music is what can be fun. So I think I would try to find that connection before finding the actual choreography and just learning how to pick up a rhythm, because you can dance just clapping your hands, that's dancing. So it's like kind of pulling it back to the most basic part of it. And then also I very much work with prompts. So dance like you're a giraffe. I mean, you've got a whole contemporary routine, So I think trying to find a different way to explain it. If we're talking about one kid, if he's more excited about the zoo or about a sport, be like, pretend you're a soccer ball and roll around on the floor, and you just put a sad song on, you've got a contemporary routine. So I think it's like, if it's an individual kid, you just have to find what they actually like and bring that in. And that's like the layer of like your personal, the individual interests. Because I would not be interested if it was just black and white, like this is the choreography.
So on that, I'm 50, occasionally there'll be a wedding or just like, come dance.
Yeah.
So when you hear that moment, come dance, what's the thing that a guy in his 30s, 40s, or a woman can say to their partner, like, just do this on the dance floor?
Okay. I would say pick a body part. Just focus on your shoulders. And that's all you have to do. Just like, okay, cool. And then the next song, focus on your feet. And you can just walk around in a circle. You can tap your foot. Like I'm talking about someone who has no musicality rhythm, but just wants to move. It's much easier to just focus on one body part, because again, you can dance with just one thing. Like it could just be waving your hand around is a dance. So if you focus on one body part, like just do your shoulders and point. That's a dance move. So it's, and then it also makes it like experimental and playful. Because you know what, a lot of people say, yeah, just move your hips. But a lot of people can't isolate their hips because that is taught. So finding like a limb, everyone can move their arms. So I don't know. I just try to make it as basic as possible without sounding like it's boring.
I really like that. Like just focus on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And I guess, we make jokes like, the lawnmower, the sprinkler, they're like, focus on your shoulders and, you're shaking off a scarf.
Yeah. I mean, that's a classic example of anything can be a dance. My dad can dance because he does a lawnmower. That's all he's ever done. So yeah, I think it is hard because that's where like from a teacher standpoint or just someone who can direct, you have to be able to make someone look good and feel good immediately without being like, oh, well, you actually don't have any skill. So it's like, just trying to be able to immediately find something that they can relate to and execute.
Because then they get that thing which we spoke about on the phone yesterday. Then they are actually channeling how they feel about something into their body rather than I'm just doing moves.
Yeah.
That's the big difference.
Yeah.
What would it have meant for you when you were 15 or so? You come down here for comedy festival, right? And you walk into the National Gallery of Victoria and you saw a massive fucking installation of a performance artist moving their body like that. What would that have meant for you as a kid to go, oh, this is a job?
I would have done it exactly that, because it's been an incredible, wild experience having been involved with NGV for this exhibit. And it's kind of been a long time coming in terms of they contacted me almost a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So the build up to it, I'm getting chills now. It's been an absolutely incredible experience because I only ever saw art galleries as being fine art, very polished, very traditional. I mean, contemporary art, doesn't have to be traditional, but definitely out of reach. Because even though I studied visual art, have always kind of separated art gallery or gallery artist as a league where I don't know anything about it. I can appreciate it and I might see it in a museum, but I never felt like that was anything that I could do, because I didn't ever see a dancer. Well, you can see dance and art, but I never saw a dancer / comedian or doing comedic dancing, physical humor in a digital format, kind of breaking the fourth wall in like a meme in an art gallery. I would have loved it though if I saw that as a kid. So I think it's been really such an honor to kind of like represent that. I don't know if it's been done before in this way. I've seen artists be comedic.
Yeah.
The classic banana taped to the wall is at NGV right now. I'd love it. I've seen artists troll the art community in a clever way. But the comedians that I grew up watching, I never thought they would be in an art gallery.
Have like young dancers reached out to you, or have you sat in the gallery and seen them come on in?
Yes, dancers and teachers and everything. But just recently, when I was there, like yesterday, a guy came up and he was like, oh, I study fashion and our professor was showing us your videos. I'm like, fashion? First of all, that's a compliment because I'm pretty daggy. But I kind of never preempted so many different areas of the industry in arts and entertainment referencing it. And I have a lot of people telling me that their teachers are showing them in class. Dance, acting, theater, musical theater, just kids' classes for whatever reason. My favorite thing, though, is that hearing that it's kids fully enjoying it, because if I wanted to do anything else in my career, I think kids' entertainment would be right up my alley. So I think I'm naturally always gravitate towards that. But yeah, I've been just blown away at the response of, because I kind of thought people will see it and hopefully enjoy it. I didn't think I would be a reference. That's what's kind of trippy to me. Yeah, because I have that from when I was a kid. The people that I reference for my entire career, kind of thinking that I could be that for someone else, is really weird. Crazy cool. But yeah.
Thank you so much for doing last night. You absolutely nailed it.
It was fun.
It was fucking cool, man.
It was absolutely brilliant. Like the cast was so strong. Really good team.
It's a very particular kind of comedy that we're doing.
It was my kind of comedy.
Exactly.
I loved watching it.
Oh man, I'm glad you did it. I'm so happy you said yes. And I'm so grateful to connect with you. This has been, to hear that, your career is a thing, that it's possible. I hope that other dance dads who are driving to the schleppy bloody convention centers, dragging all the costumes around, it's like $250 and I've got to pay that's for the costume, and I've got to pay $50 to get in for 3 minutes.
Yep.
And then drive 4 hours back. You guys all know each other. Do you know the costume maker guy? Pretty sure you do.
Listen,
it's a racket, man.
I feel like every industry is pretty scammy, but if there's joy in it and you can find the joy in it, then that's what you run with. But isn't it awesome that if you didn't have the accessibility of that or the family to support you or friends, you can actually just open an app.
Yeah.
And really potentially learn quite a lot.
Quite a lot.
And really grow from that. So many of my immediate friends, myself included, have now got careers based on what we've discovered online and what we've created online. So I do think that that's pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
Obviously, having parents and people around you to support.
It's pretty good.
Forever
Someone's
grateful.
got to buy it, mate. Those block shoes are expensive. You're going to need to get some cash from somewhere.
My God, we made all of our own. My mum made all my costumes because we weren't trying to go the expensive route. But that made me thrifty.
Did your mum make the mask costume?
Yeah, no, that was like 4 other costumes just put together for that show.
I love it.
Yeah, I grew up to be very thrifty, and that's definitely helped my life.
Thanks for being a part of it, mate. Thanks for coming around.
Thank you so much.